Johnny didn't plan on becoming a detective. What he imagined pretty much every day was being a regular kid, just like everyone else. In fact, for a long time, the only thing Johnny really wanted was to be like everyone else. But life had different plans for him. Ever since he was little, Johnny had trouble fitting in. It seemed that wherever he went and whoever he was with, things went wrong. On good days, the other kids would just ignore him. But more often than not, his social world consisted of a healthy dose of teasing, insults, rejection, and bullying. He even had a nickname, Johnny Strange, which, no matter how hard he tried, he could not shake. Now Johnny was a smart kid and knew a lot about a lot of things, but when it came to friends and fitting in, he was lost. The social world was a complete mystery to him. So Johnny ended up spending most of his time alone, where it was safe. He would read and play his favorite video games. In fact, in the world of video games, Johnny was a superhero. He loved playing games where he could become a character and solve puzzles and uncover clues. And he loved reading detective books. Most of the time, when he was reading a good detective book, Johnny could solve the mystery way before the detective in the book. Why is it so easy for me to solve the mysteries and puzzles in my books and computer games, and so hard for me to solve the mystery of kids? He asked himself that over and over. The harder things got with the kids at school and in the neighborhood, the deeper Johnny went into his computer games and books. But the books and computer games did not fill him up. What he really wanted was to fit in, to not be Johnny Strange. He would try to tell himself he didn't care, but he was too smart to really believe that. He was too smart to forget that all he ever really wanted was to be a regular kid, just like everyone else. The truth was that Johnny was lonely, and while he had solved countless mysteries and puzzles in his day, the one mystery that was most important, the social mystery, still stumped him. As he got older, the social puzzles became increasingly challenging for Johnny. He became more and more hopeless about ever fitting in. Life seemed bleak, until one day, Johnny realized something that would change his life. Maybe I've been going about all this all wrong, he thought to himself. Every time I have a problem with other kids, I put more energy into my games and books. And every time I put more energy into my games and books, I get better at solving puzzles and mysteries. Maybe what I need to do is think about this social mystery thing the same way I think about the mysteries in my books and games. As this thought went through Johnny's mind, a light went on inside of him. It was a light that, once on, never went off again. It was a light that would help guide his way out of the loneliness he had been feeling for so long. It was then and there that Johnny vowed to himself he would not stop until he solved the most important mystery that had come his way yet. All the other mysteries and puzzles have been training me for this one, he told himself. Just as Sherlock Holmes solved the mysteries of the crime world, I, Johnny Multoney, will solve the mysteries of the social world. All good detectives have a set of procedures they use to solve their mysteries. So the first thing Johnny did after having this realization was to devise a game plan. He started a list, procedures for solving social mysteries. Good detectives start with the facts, and that is where Johnny knew he should start. So the first part of his procedures list was about gathering the facts. Johnny came up with 6 important points for gathering facts. Number 1, collect all the facts and write them down. All good detectives collect the facts and write them down so they can go over them later. Johnny actually got a special notebook that he dedicated to solving social mysteries. Number 2, always have your eyes and ears open for clues. A good detective realizes that you never know where a really important clue might be hiding. Number 3, pay good attention and always listen carefully, not just to what people are saying, but also to how they say it. A good detective knows that it is not just words that give you information, it is actions as well. So you want to make sure to pay attention to things like body language and facial expressions, as well as to words. Number 4, always try to look at things from other people's points of view. Kids always seem to see things differently than Johnny did. If he could start to understand the way that other kids saw him and saw social situations around them, It might give him important clues for how to solve social puzzles. Number 5, look for clues in the surrounding events. Often clues can be found in the events that come before and the events that follow a social mystery. For that reason, a good social detective must always think about the events that surround the puzzle he's trying to solve. Number 6, always check the facts. A good detective always checks to make sure he has his facts straight. He could do this by asking other people how they saw situations to see if what they saw matched what he saw. The second part of Johnny's list of procedures was about what you do with the facts once you have gathered them. He came up with 5 important procedures for making sense of the facts. Number 1, break things down into pieces to make them more manageable and easier to understand. Johnny would frequently get overwhelmed with his social puzzles. They seemed so big and unmanageable, so breaking things down seemed like a good plan. Number 2, imagine how others might be seeing the situation. Not only does this give you very important facts, it also helps tremendously in understanding and solving social mysteries. This is often called putting yourself in other people's shoes, and it can be done in different ways. One way is to ask others directly how they see things. Another way is to imagine that you are that other person and try to see things the way they do. Then ask yourself how you might feel or what you might think if you were them. Number 3, make sure to look at all the evidence. Sometimes it is easy to leave out information that is essential for solving a mystery. For example, if we leave out how someone else sees a situation and only see it from our point of view, we don't have all the clues to understanding what is going on. Go over the evidence many times, this is number 4, and try to see things from as many different points of view as possible. Good detectives know that we don't always notice all the clues the first time we look over the facts. By examining the facts several times, we can avoid missing things that might be important for solving our social mysteries. Imagining how the facts would look from different points of view can also help us find clues we may have missed the first time around. Number 5, ask for others' opinions. 2 heads are often much better than one. So after examining the evidence, it can be extremely helpful to discuss what you have found with other people in order to get a fresh perspective that might help you solve the mystery. Johnny realized that being a good social detective was not just about understanding why things happened. To be a good detective, it was also important to find ways of fixing the problems that were going on in his social world. Clearly, the first steps in fixing a problem would be to identify what it was and then to understand why it was happening. Gathering the facts and making sense of them would help him do this. But Johnny needed to know what to do next. He needed solutions to make his social world better. So he created the last part of his set of procedures, which he called creating social remedies. A remedy is something that corrects a problem, and it seemed logical to Johnny that when coming up with a remedy, some important things needed to be done to make sure it worked. Number 1, it's always helpful to have choices. So, after the problem had been identified and understood, Johnny thought he should come up with at least 3 possible remedies for dealing with it. To do this, he would first brainstorm as many remedies as he could. He would be as creative and imaginative as possible. Then he would narrow down his choices to the top 3 that seemed to make the most sense. Second, the next step would be to think of all the pros and cons of each remedy. Johnny did this by acting out the situation in his mind and thinking of all the possibilities that might occur if he used this remedy. Number 3, Johnny thought that another good way of exploring the pros and cons would be to share his remedy with someone he trusted and ask them what pros and cons they might see. Fourth, his next step would be to create an experiment to test out his remedy. This would be some social situation in which he could see if his new strategy helped in solving his social problem. Fifth, once his remedy had been tested, Johnny would analyze how it worked, taking lots of notes about how his remedy was successful and how it was not. He would notice if his remedy had any positive or negative side effects. If his remedy was not perfect, Johnny would try to learn from it and use the facts that came from it to create a new remedy. Johnny was excited about his approach to things. His set of procedures made him feel less overwhelmed about his situation. Now he had a plan, and he always seemed to do better when he had a plan and knew exactly what he was supposed to be doing. He knew that it might take time, but he was determined to solve this social mystery. He wrote all his procedures on the very first page of his new detective notebook and stuffed the book into his pocket. He went to school with the mind of a detective, believing that he was going to solve this problem just as he solved all his video games and book mysteries. He began to see school and all the mysteries and puzzles it presented as an exciting challenge rather than as an overwhelming, unsolvable mystery. And while he kept his attention on his academics were never a problem for Johnny anyway, he put extra effort into being aware of what was going on around him. He carried his notebook with him everywhere, taking notes continuously throughout the day and using his 6 steps for gathering information. At night, after completing his schoolwork, he would spend hours analyzing the information he had gathered, using the tools he had created for making sense of the facts. Slowly but surely, things became clearer to Johnny. He started understanding things in a deeper way than he ever had before, and little by little he began seeing things not only from his own point of view, but also from the points of view of other people. He started understanding how other people were seeing him and his actions, and how other people might be feeling about things. Being able to see things from other people's points of view changed Johnny in an amazing way. He began to realize he had a tremendous amount of power over his social world. The power came from understanding how things worked and realizing how much impact his actions really had on how people saw him. Little by little, Johnny began devising remedies and testing them out. Sometimes his remedies didn't work, but he would always try again. He had never given up at a video game or a detective story, and he was sure not going to give up now. Gradually, he developed a whole medicine chest of social remedies that seemed to be effective in dealing with the social problems he had been having in school year after year. Johnny was finally getting what he had always wanted, to fit in and be like all the other kids. The kid who had been known by everyone as Johnny Strange transformed into Johnny Smooth. He flowed through social situations and navigated social rough spots with a smoothness that other kids came to admire. Johnny was incredibly happy with how things had changed for him. But as fitting in became more of a normal part of his life, Johnny started to realize something else. He began to realize that there was a reason why he had been different all these years. There was a reason why things had happened the way they did. Most kids go through their lives never really thinking about social mysteries. They go through their lives never really thinking about why certain things work socially and other things don't. They just do what comes naturally. But for Johnny, these things did not come naturally, and because of that, he had to work hard to understand what was going on socially. You could say the kids who never had to think about these things had it easy because they naturally fit in. They didn't have to worry about social problems all the time. But often, when those kids had problems, they didn't know how to deal with them. They didn't have the deeper understanding of social mysteries that came from really having to think about your social world. Johnny became an expert at solving social mysteries, and he knew that he could not let this new gift go unused. He felt an obligation to those less fortunate, those who were unable to solve their own social mysteries. In the beginning, all Johnny had wanted was to fit in and not be Johnny Strange. But in time, he realized that his destiny involved something much bigger. His destiny was bigger than earning the title of Johnny Smooth. His destiny involved helping others by starting the first ever detective agency dedicated to solving social mysteries. Johnny started small, offering his services to a select number of kids who desperately needed his help. But before long, the news of what he was doing spread, and he became somewhat legendary at schools and neighborhoods far and wide. Kids from all over, and even adults, would come to Johnny and ask him if he could help them with their social mysteries. The stories that follow are real cases taken from Johnny's detective journal. While the cases are real, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. As you follow Johnny in his cases, see if you can solve the mysteries yourself. Follow Johnny's steps for solving good mysteries will help you figure out the cases. You can use the Procedures for Solving Social Mysteries checklist to guide you in your detective work. Good luck.